family started making maple syrup in Ohio in 1834. The Bissells were homesteaders. Ohio had a lot of good fertile ground and a lot of maple trees, and there were a lot of families that moved from New England out to Ohio and settled in this area, and just passed through the family's history. My earliest memories of maple syrup, I didn't mind that Dad did all the work. I was more interested in football and girls than I was maple syrup. The first time I moved away from home and missed something that was really just unique to our family, and I didn't realize that every family didn't make maple syrup. It was unique. And that was the first homesick thing that I had, was I missed maple syrup. And I found out it was in my family's history. I found some old black and white photos of the family's original sugar house, and it just inspired me to do more. That's the definition of a passion. You don't know why, you got to do it. I take sap from the trees, collect it in buckets and with tubing, and all we do is remove the water. We either do that at the beginning with reverse osmosis, or at the end is the evaporation process, where you actually use fire underneath a pan and caramelize the maple sugar, and you've got maple syrup. But it's very weather dependent. Maple syrup it's farming, and Mother Nature determines when you're making syrup.
Every year we try to come out with something new, innovative, exciting. It's not necessarily easy, but that's the great thing about brewing. There's so many flavor combinations that haven't been done and can always be done in a different way. We have some interesting barrels that were originally bourbon barrels, and then Bissell Farms uses to make their bourbon-aged maple syrup.
Barrel-aging maple syrup changed the rules of the game. There's a lot of tradition and history with maple syrup production, and we're actually taking maple syrup, and by industry standards, we're ruining it. It wouldn't win any awards at a maple syrup tasting contest, but it just changed the discussion. We were looking for a way to be different than everybody else, and we experimented initially, and we made some good batches, we made some bad batches. We ruined a lot of maple syrup, getting to the point where we have a really good process. It's very repetitive, and you get a good, consistent quality out of it. When you're putting 200-degree maple syrup in a bourbon barrel, it tends to absorb that flavor pretty quick, and the aging process only helps.
What's special about these is they're still American white oak bourbon barrels, but they almost have a candy coating on the inside with the maple. And it doesn't necessarily bring a lot of extra sweetness, but what it does is it balances the bourbon characteristic. Growing up in California, there's a rich history of Hispanic culture, and there's a lot of flavors that I might not have necessarily grown up with, but I grew into. And some of my friends, they made delicious brownies with a little bit of chipotle pepper that gives it a nice little kick of heat, and it's something that I really enjoy and think works well with a beer that's so heavy and has a sweeter character, just to balance the whole thing out. It has 3 main ingredients that are bringing something different to the original Bourbon County backbone. First is the maple that's coming from the barrel. The next one is cocoa nibs. It's got a little edge of bitterness and a really, really nice dark chocolate. And then finally, the chipotle pepper kind of brings in smokiness, and it has a little bit of heat to just finish off any extra sweetness that might have come out of the maple or even the cocoa.
We kind of like to think that we've actually added to the value and the story of that barrel. And there's a lot of similarities between how bourbon's processed and maple syrup's processed. I can use the barrel after the distillery gets it, so I'm glad that I get some value out of that barrel. And then it goes on to the brewer, and it's great to see somebody else get some value out of a barrel that we think has a lot of life left in it.